And that concludes our talk about our favorite and least favorite fan bases.
Yeah.
Oh, they
do a
missed
power ranking one day.
So would. Next 21 questions, please ask me.
Yes.
The Kansas City Chiefs have taken care of their biggest issue heading into the home stretch of this season. DeAndre Hopkins is a Chief. Will we see him on Sunday? And if so, what will his role be? Let's talk about it.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC, our tremendous partners in possible here at KC Sports Network. Wednesdays are Matter Days here on the Laboratory. Wednesdays are also the days that the Chiefs acquired DeAndre Hopkins from the Tennessee Titans. It is quite a big day. Maddie Lane, I know you've already been doing some breaking news, team, with the news of DeAndre Hopkins becoming a Chief. Real quick, though, how excited are you to see that happen?
I'm excited. I am glad that the Chiefs, as I kind of said there, and I also did a film room on the Discord for all of you guys out there in the KCS Discord. There is a film room on there too. And my sentiment is this: I am happy the Chiefs went out and made a real move. They went out and did a big boy thing. They pulled up their pants. They sacrificed the draft picks, and they got a real adult wide receiver that can come in and play. We will see how Hopkins can fit into the Chiefs offense. I think there are some things that he does really well that can help and fit. And there's some things that kind of clash with how Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have generally played. We will see if it's kind of a chicken or an egg thing. Is it a cause or an effect situation of, does that what Mahomes prefers? Or does he just not want to throw 50-50 balls to 150-pound guys all the time? We'll see. We'll have to figure that out. But I'm excited they went and made the move and took the swing. Hamilton, I normally get to ask you about last week's game, but I guess we should, start with, what is your thoughts here on this DeAndre Hopkins being traded to the Chiefs and everything about that?
Yeah, let's do it. It's definitely exciting, and that was my first initial thought. Is we haven't really seen Patrick Mahomes ever play with a receiver like DeAndre Hopkins stylistically. So really interested to see what that's going to look like. And as far as DeAndre's caliber of play right now, obviously the numbers are a little down this year. A lot of that, the quarterback situation in Tennessee has been an utter disaster. That doesn't help things. He is coming off that MCL injury in the offseason too. And when you look at some of the underlying stuff, next gen, his speed, things like that, and even just watching it, just watching him run out there, it does look like he's lost maybe a little bit of a step. But this last game against the Bills, you saw a little more burst out of him. I know he did not a whole lot on the stat sheet, but you saw him moving a little bit better. The next gen numbers, like this past game against the Bills, like his speed numbers were more in line with where he was last year, which through the first few weeks, all of that was down across the board. But I do think he still has plenty left in take. Because again, his game has never been about speed as it is. He's smart. He's savvy. He finds holes in zone coverage. He's still doing that. That third down he picked up against Buffalo last week was a perfect example of that. And he can still go and get those 50-50 balls, like you said. You put it anywhere in his general area, he is going to come down with it. So overall, I mean, with what's out there, I love this addition, especially considering that they really didn't have to give up that much. And if it turns to a fourth-round pick, it's going to be well worth it because the conditions on it are Super Bowl appearance, and he's out there playing and making a big difference. So I love the move from Brett Veach.
Yeah, I think it was a tremendous move by this football team. I think the compensation is fair, especially considering that the Titans are going to be paying a decent chunk of change there for the Kansas City Chiefs in order to get that pick. And also makes the Titans worse than the Chiefs own the Titans' third-round pick. So, that even makes it even a little bit better too, right? But I'm really excited to see DeAndre Hopkins in Kansas City. This was a player that was talked about a lot a year ago as a potential target for the Kansas City Chiefs. And frankly, there was a lot of talk about DeAndre Hopkins' interest in Kansas City and vice versa heading into the offseason. So it's cool to see that this move materializes. Brett Veach always gets his guy, man. If Brett Veach has his eye on a guy, there's a good chance he draft, free agency, what have you. There's a chance he's going to find a way to get those guys back in Kansas City at some point. That's been a trend that we've seen over the course of his time as the GM of the Kansas City Chiefs, but I'm very excited to see DeAndre Hopkins in a Chiefs uniform, and I'm hoping that we get to see him in a Chiefs uniform this week. This is the game preview episode of the KC Laboratory. We talk about both sides of the football, getting you ready for the week. It is Chiefs versus Raiders, and we will be previewing the offensive side of the football first, and we can start with some more DeAndre Hopkins conversation, honestly.
There you go.
I would like to, it's Wednesday. The official move didn't happen today. So the Chiefs are going to have 2 weeks of 2 days of practice, essentially before they're going to roll out against the Las Vegas Raiders. There's been some reports that the Chiefs intend to have DeAndre Hopkins play, but that seems like a little bit walk back ish. And we'll just kind of see what happens there. But I think we operate in if DeAndre Hopkins plays as a package player, which is what Andy Reid kind of defines as a role player that has a specific package of plays. He's not going to be lining up 65 snaps on Sunday, but will have a defined role. Could be the red zone, maybe something like that, especially considering he'll be in for red zone install day of practice coming up here. But what would you expect Matthew Lane to kind of see in a limited capacity of DeAndre Hopkins for the Kansas City Chiefs against the Las Vegas Raiders?
I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of what you said. It's going to be, if he plays at all, it's going to be in a limited role. It's going to come in specific packages. You're going to give him a small section of this playbook to try to learn in time for the game. Now, he's a veteran. He's been around for a while. You can probably find some stuff that he can pick up pretty quick as long as he can figure out the verbs, how it's pronounced, how it goes in this West Coast system, what everything means. He'll be able to figure it out. So I do think when you get in the red zone where the Chiefs have really struggled, you get to some third downs where, especially now without Juju Smith-Schuster for this game, like that's another big thing we haven't even mentioned yet. No Juju Smith-Schuster for this game already. They don't have a second reliable guy to just throw the ball to. It's Travis Kelce, and even Travis Kelce isn't a high volume on third down target anymore. At least he has not been up to this point. So just getting another guy like Hopkins who eventually can grow into that. So yeah, you might see some third downs. You might see some red zone stuff. And it doesn't mean he'll never play on an early down, but I was looking up, Amari Cooper played 19, I think, of 55 snaps for the Buffalo Bills. I think he technically gets there a day earlier at worst. He's getting there a day earlier for the Bills, but he played 19 snaps out of 55. It's not a lot. I would expect maybe a little less than that out of Hopkins, especially given how Andy Reid and the Chiefs like to roll. But I do think you see him this weekend in some capacity.
Yeah, even if it's just in the red zone, putting him in there and some of the side, just you don't need to be fully integrated in the offense or on a goal line fade. So could just be things like that. But yeah, I agree. I'd be shocked if we don't see him used in any capacity when you go make a move like this. Obviously, it's almost impossible to expect him to be fully up to speed and out there on the majority of snaps, but there's got to be some packages in there for him, especially with what's going on at the receiver. You have Noah Gray and Samaje Perine lead you in receiving the previous week. You got to find ways to get this guy on the field.
Yeah, I forgot. I even forgot again. Samaje Perine was the second leading receiver for this team this week. Hamilton,
one catch on the final drive.
Yep.
It's just absolutely absurd. So yeah, I think if they can find a way to get him involved and have a plan for him this week, that'd be tremendous. Just because they do need it. Like to your point, like this team needs capable bodies and they need some production out of the receiving room. So yeah, I do think if you look at, and I'm not gonna completely compare it, but the Justin Ross package that they kind of had against the Minnesota Vikings last year seemed to they tried to feature Justin Ross a little bit in that game early in the season last year, just try to see what they could do with them. And, they ran a little bit, a couple glance routes. I think they tried to stand up and throw a hitch to him. I think they tried to throw a fade to him. He ran a nice little dig route from a true X position in that game. So maybe there's a similar path to how they try to get DeAndre Hopkins involved in this game. That existed. A lot of that was, it was around the 50-yard line and in the red zone, where were some of the areas that they were trying to utilize DeAndre Hopkins as far as areas of the field. One thing that Peter Schrager said today that I thought was like a little bit interesting is they talked about maybe, like when they were talking about the DeAndre Hopkins acquisition, one of the things that they were, trying to take care of is, more opportunities in the middle of the field, which I thought was a little bit interesting. from, where, you see DeAndre Hopkins and a lot of the stuff that he's done and a lot of the work he does tends to be outside the numbers. Maddie, do you think they'll try to get DeAndre Hopkins involved from the slot a little bit this year?
Sure. I mean, a couple things. Like I do think DeAndre Hopkins does a lot on the outside, but like he's really good on in-breaking routes. Like he's run a lot of slants for the Titans. Like that's kind of been, I would say that's almost where his bread and butter is right now. Like he wants to threaten guys vertically with some of these back shoulders and contested catches on these fade routes. He actually runs a pretty wicked, like just pure out route or like corner route too. But when I was going back and watching through all of his routes kind of from the last 2 years, it's a lot of slants and he's really good at them. He's good with his releases. He's so strong that like, even if you get hands on him, it rarely matters. So yeah, I could definitely see them using him just on in-breaking routes from anywhere. But if you look outside of those couple of first years there with Cliff and going from that point on, he's played in the slot a fair amount, 20, 30%. I don't expect him to come in and be Juju Smith-Schuster where it's all slot, or Rashee Rice, where it's all slot reps all the time, unless they're in a 1 or 2 wide receiver set, even as he gets going. I think this actually perfectly ties into like Xavier Worthy's usage and how they tried to put him in the slot more against the 49ers. Like that was clearly the goal until Juju got hurt. Then they had to go back to moving him around, but they still tried to keep him in the slot. So that's probably their best bet is Hopkins outside, Worthy in the slot. Watson's your other outside wide receiver right now, but you probably will get some nuke in the middle of the field, some working out of the slot. I just think that he can get there without having to be aligned and tight for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree. And I think you look at a lot of the damage he's done beyond the slants, a lot of, deep crossers, digs, things like that, where he's finding holes in zone coverage. I thought that's where he's kind of been at his most dangerous this year, at least, again, having, maybe lost a little bit from a speed perspective. He's still really good at finding those holes, settling down, obviously really sure-handed, can make plays in all that traffic. So again, when you think about DeAndre and all the big plays he's made over the years, so much of it is outside the numbers and on vertical routes. He is really, really good operating in the middle of the field as well, which I think is something that the Chiefs really need.
I think it makes a lot of sense when you look back, and I think now that there's an official name to who the Chiefs have acquired, I think it makes a lot more sense to see a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, because for all you guys just said, like I do think he's got a more advanced route tree. He's an exceptional football player and he can operate with, routes over the middle, into the middle of the field. And then when you talk about what Justin Reed said, he's got a master's degree in football. Justin Reed played with him in Houston. This is a very smart veteran player. And when you're talking about somebody that can step in quickly, step in and make a difference, has a good understanding of the game of football. Those are the kind of guys that can see the field the same way Patrick Mahomes can. And I just think it makes a ton of sense to get a guy like this for this offense for that very reason. So I'm excited to see what that looks like, and I'm excited to see how the Chiefs weaponize him. I think one other little nugget, one thing I thought about too, is I do think this can potentially take some pressure off of Travis Kelce too, and they can get back to some of the Y ISO looks, which it's not a Y ISO anymore. It's an X ISO. It's like an X ISO again. Now you talked about, being really good with outbreaking routes, Maddie. Well, if you're playing from that condensed split where what the Chiefs like to do is they like to isolate Travis Kelce on the backside of a formation of a 3-by-1 look, and they'll reduce the split and kind of give him a lot of space to run option routes, to run out routes, still be part of the route concept to the other side. Well, DeAndre Hopkins can slip in there a little bit now too and run like an X ISO, like a true formation. It's not a Y over formation. It's now you're isolating a DeAndre Hopkins to kind of be that guy too. So like you can present that option a little bit more. I think this could be a really good fit for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like I think they'll find ways to utilize him.
He's better suited for that than Kelce is right now. Like Kelce's been pretty ineffective. In that isolated wide receiver the last few years, right? Like he's not the same guy. So I think definitely putting Hopkins out there in those roles will be, the way to go. And I think the next bonus, besides like getting back into that, and that also allows Worthy, Kelce, and whoever else to be the three wide receiver side. And I think that's where you want, like, anytime you get to protect Worthy with Kelce also working the coverage under there, or allow Kelce to work underneath Worthy, like they can kind of help each other out, putting them together versus always having to have Kelce on the backside's good. I think another thing is like, it just goes back to the whole point. I think putting Juju Smith-Schuster last week when they were playing the 49ers, the game came out. Juju Smith-Schuster only played, I was looking at it here, 6 snaps, 6 receiving snaps, 5 of them were in the slot. Only 1 was out wide, but they were trying to get Xavier Worthy out in the slot a little bit more. He played his most snaps from the slot. I even saw Juju was at that 1 rep outside. I thought there was more, but he played a couple outside where they could let Worthy get in the slot. They actually did that against the Saints too. They're trying to ramp him up to get the slot usage to protect him from having to deal with press. Like we've seen it. I think that 49ers game was the perfect example. Even when not dealing with press, just general contact, Worthy's having a lot of trouble getting off of it. He's having a lot of trouble getting away when a guy catches him on a crosser, when somebody just cuts off his path and he has to then cross their face. They're touching him. They're getting hands on him. He's having a hard time getting off that. Getting to keep him in the slot is going to help that going forward. Like not having him play outside is going to help. So I do think you saw his usage change a little bit this last week. Just the impact wasn't there. I do think something like this helps. So I think not only are you getting a better outside receiver, I think this is going to help Worthy get better when he gets to play in the slot, continue to learn that position. You're alleviating pressure off Kelce. I really do think this, overall, this is going to be a good move for the Chiefs. It's just, it might take a couple weeks before you see a ton of the benefit outside of just a couple situations.
All right, so I want to just talk to you guys about anything else on the offensive side of the football that you might be paying attention to outside of the DeAndre Hopkins experience. Hamilton, anything else that you're paying attention to for this game?
Yeah, I'm looking at, we kind of saw more of, we know it's a big part of the Chiefs' DNA offensively, using the receivers in the run game. And obviously, like that's been probably where McCole Hardman's impact has been felt the most over his Chiefs career, but like having an entire week to game plan, knowing you're not going to have Juju, knowing DeAndre is not going to be fully integrated, wondering how much more we see of it, how much more eye candy there is, and these receivers are really as significant, and the motions are really like an even more significant part of this run game and this offense, because it's kind of the recipe right now because they don't have a lot of pass catchers to throw the ball to. I think it's going to be one of these things where we see a lot of creativity, a lot of different looks, try to jazz up this run game as much as possible this week, and give the defense as much to look at as you possibly can, because it's going to have to be one of these weeks, I think, where it's really heavily relying on the run game.
Oh, I agree 100% with you. I do think this is going to be a piece of this game is, like talking about just, the variations that they presented teams. And you saw them kind of lean on McCole. I'm not even entirely sure that the plan was to use that with McCole quite as much as they did. I think they were going to utilize it and they had it in the call sheet, but I don't know if it was as intended to be as frequent as they were trying to. But like, I think the personnel groupings lined up a little bit better with who they had available to them after Juju Smith-Schuster went out. But yeah, I think they did a great job getting him involved, and like they should bring it right back. They should play the hits a little bit here. They should get that involved. They should get him. They should get whatever they have at their disposal. It's kind of an all hands on deck situation, trying to get them involved in the run game a little bit and try to lead on those tight ends a little bit more too, right? Like I think playing a little bit heavier personnel for the rest of while they're trying to kind of get their feet back underneath them with who they have available to them at this point. You've game planned without Juju for the week. You're going to have that package with DeAndre Hopkins. But outside of that, I think you've probably got to lean on the tight ends. And look, this is a remarkably efficient run game. And it's been very productive, down to down against a team like the Raiders. I think it's good to continue to lean on that a little bit, continue to run the football, try to run the football against the team. What do you say, Maddie?
Well, specifically to the Raiders, like Wilkins is out with a fracture in his foot, so he's not playing, and that's probably their best run defender. Max Crosby's great too. I don't want to take anything away from him, but like Wilkins is a great run defender on the interior. The Chiefs had seen that firsthand last year when they played him twice in Miami. That's a big deal for this Raiders team. And like they still defensively, I still think they play hard. This football team, the vibes are really bad for the Raiders right now, but the defense does still play hard, right? They still play pretty hard. You kind of dig into all the numbers and like all the rushing numbers. They're pretty middle of the pack, lower third of the NFL. But this Chiefs run game right now, it's just kind of a machine. It's not dynamic whatsoever. Their longest running back run was 12 yards from Kareem Hunt this past week. They're barely averaging over the magic 3.3333 number when they run. But by God, if they don't get it every single time, right? Like they are just constantly getting those 3 to 4 yards over and over again. This just feels like another game where the Chiefs are going to say, okay, you're missing your best run defender. You're missing your interior guy. We're not going to let Max Crosby beat us in the passing game. Here, handle another 35 runs coming straight at you with one of the best interior offensive lines in the NFL that's playing phenomenal right now. Go handle these guys like over and over again. ask Fred Warner right now how he was feeling after that Chiefs game. Like, I know the 49ers are thin at D-tackle, but Fred Warner, I have never seen him get blown up as often as he was in that game because these interior guys were getting just on top of him so fast when he was trying to crash downhill and stop these runs. So leaning on the run game. And then when that offensive line's pushing you around a little bit, it gets a lot easier to hit Worthy or McColl on these jet sweeps or these reverses where, oh, now all of a sudden, instead of firing off and running power right down our throats or running inside zone at us, here comes the speed to the outside on a guy that's faster than anybody on our defense. So we can't break the angle. It's just, it's a pretty difficult rushing attack to deal with. And then, oh, by the way, in case you did forget, Patrick Mahomes is still the quarterback. You do have to give that some kind of respect, even if, the stats aren't showing up this year. So I would be kind of surprised if the Chiefs run game doesn't just continue what it's been doing and like literally the exact definition of body blows. It's like the Chiefs running attack is like watching a Rocky movie. Like it's so ugly until like round 9. And then all of a sudden things start taking over as everybody's getting beaten to a pulp. Like that's what it is, but they're so great at it. And I think a thin Raiders front seven is probably another team they can take advantage of.
All right. Absolutely. And I did want to say too, just speaking of the offensive line, I was putting a little something together for Up and Adams today on Geno Smith, and I was just looking at time to pressure numbers from the advanced stats there, and because Geno's getting pressured faster than any quarterback in the league. Mahomes has the longest time to pressure of any quarterback right now, 3 seconds per pressure in his time to pressure. So offensive line doing a good job of pass protecting right now too.
I think when the issues exist, it largely exists over on the left side, and I think as the comfortability continues to happen, I think good things will start to happen for this team, and we'll start seeing some scary offense from this team.
Here's another fun stat. Here's another fun stat. I found it. You give me more time to find stats, buddy. We're gonna keep ripping them. Next gen stats. The Raiders are 8th in the NFL in yards before contact. Oh, that sounds right up the Chiefs' alley. Like the 8th worst. Sorry. 8th worst. That sounds right up the Chiefs' alley. You're gonna let them not have to get to contact. They're gonna get those. What is it? We're looking at 2 yards before contact, and you think Kareem Hunt's not falling forward for another 2 yards on every single carry as he just kind of rolls over bodies? Oh, it's over. That's 4 yards per carry. That's a big day.
I want to move on to offensive players to watch. Nice try, Hamilton. Hamilton, give me your offensive player to watch for the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, I'm using my one Mahomes pass of the year here. I'm talking Patrick Mahomes. Again, before DeAndre gets integrated, it's gonna be a real test for him with this group that's gonna be out there. This is also, we know what happened the last time he played this team. The turnovers on his part were the difference in the game. We haven't seen him go a game without throwing an interception yet this year. I want to see this be the first clean game that he has in 2024. I do think, we are going to, as we just talked about, we're going to see them lean on the run a little bit more. So it's going to mean fewer opportunities for him to put the ball in harm's way. Obviously, I think when they do pull it back and have him throw, they're going to try to be aggressive with it off of that run game. But I want to see this be the first clean game that he has this year. We know he's going to be locked in after what happened this summer with the idiotic decision to pull out the Mahomes doll and all of that, just continue to poke the bear for no reason. Any chance you had of maybe sneaking up on this Chiefs team was killed right then and there. I do think we see Mahomes have his cleanest game of the season. I want to see it, and I do think it happens.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. And I did want to go back to that too. Like this is a little bit of a sneaky revenge game for the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't do a lot of revenge games because when you're winning Super Bowls, what are you getting revenge on? Like, come on. But this is one. You're going to beat them on Christmas, and then you're going to, Antonio Pierce, like in some interviews has been like very chill about it. In other interviews, he's talked it up a lot. And so like they're getting all those clips. There's a puppet going around. Like this game, I think is one of the few games where the Chiefs are like maybe going to actually be a little juiced to get in there and play this game like more so than they normally would be. Sometimes for Mahomes, that shows up great and he comes out and plays amazing. Sometimes he comes out a little too juiced and like it takes him a while to settle in. We'll see. But you know who I think is going to be ready to go from the go? Anybody on the offensive line. I'm picking the entire offensive line. That's right, Kent. We put on the OL Mastermind shirt to pick the entire thing. I'm cheating the system. Last year, in this game in particular, the Raiders defensive line kicked the Chiefs offensive line's ass. Yes, it was mostly coming off the left side. And guess what? The same guy's playing again now in Wanya Morris. He's obviously the big guy to watch. There's no Malcolm Kuntz to torture him this time, but Max Crosby's there. He will move around, but he'll mostly play off a Jawan Taylor side. I think this offensive line is going to see everything that happened last year. It wasn't a good performance across the board from them. I think the entire team will be ready. I think it's a little bit easier to come out jazzed up as an offensive line and not have mistakes and just have that relate to great play. So the entire offensive line, I think they just come out and kind of dominate this one from the get-go. Oh, and he's muted. This is a tough go for Kent.
You muted me.
Yeah, while I was talking, I muted you. You're right.
That absolutely. That would not be the first time.
And you say you're the quarterback.
I'm going with Xavier Worthy. I'm excited to see what Xavier Worthy looks like with a little bit more help yet again. Maybe put him in a different role. Let him kind of, maybe do some of the things that he's been good at and not ask him to do quite as much. I want to continue to see his growth and progression. I want to see them try to hit the vertical passing game, and I want them to continue to build that chemistry. I still want them to get involved, but he may not have to be a volume guy. They gave him 8 targets this last game. I don't know if he's going to hit that 8 target mark in this one, but I want to see how he performs in this now that you've got DeAndre Hopkins here available to kind of help this team out. So I'm looking at Xavier Worthy as my player to watch for this game. Calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50-yard line inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. You can enter to win a chance to be on the field for the March to the Three-Peat. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs, our favorite football team here, and we appreciate GEHA and what they're doing for this KC community. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Appreciate everyone hanging out with us tonight on the DeAndre Hopkins game preview edition of the KC Laboratory. Appreciate everybody. Let's move on to the defensive side of the football. They have not made any trades, so it's basically everybody back except for Jalen Watson. Obviously, that is going to be an overarching storyline for this game and for perhaps the entirety of the season. Matt Hamilton, what do you expect the Chiefs to do with the absence of Jalen Watson, who's playing good football?
Yeah, and it's a big blow. He'd been tremendous this year. Obviously, that was a big storyline coming in, losing L'Jarius Sneed, what the secondary was going to look like. Shamari Connor stepped up big time. He's been awesome. I mean, McDuffie, I feel like, is elevated to even another level. And Watson had been playing really well. So I do wonder, if the Chiefs are going to make another move here to bolster that secondary. The remainder of that cornerback spot, there's a lot of questions there. I think it's fair to have questions there, and you do wonder. I mean, this week I'm not concerned about it because I don't think the Raiders have a ton that they're really going to be able to exploit it. I mean, they did. I don't know what the Raiders are going to do with that. Aiden O'Connell throwing 11 straight incompletions or whatever it was last year, but yeah, I don't. I don't think the Raiders are really going to be able to test that weakness as much, but it is going to be an issue in the future. And, with Brett Veach being a little bit aggressive here, you wonder if he is going to make another swing on the trade market.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I definitely have considered. Like, they have Joshua Williams, who they've kind of trusted in the past to play outside corner.
Yeah.
Like, he's obviously fallen down the depth chart this year. He has clearly lost the battle to Jalen Watson, who came out and has played phenomenal this year. Najee Johnson's kind of taken that role, and this is his first like extended period of playing in the NFL. He, his rookie year, he didn't play a ton because Watson and Williams were ahead of him. Last year, he suffers the ACL injury and he's not playing all year. So you kind of expect ups and downs from him, but he's definitely had ups and downs this year while playing. So I think he gets the first crack. You do know Williams has been in the system for a while, so they might give this another 2 games now to see what this looks like before trying to make another deal before the trade deadline. And as you said, I don't know if the Raiders are the team that are really going to give you much of a test as your outside corner depth. Like, especially if Jacoby Myers misses this game as well. Like, what are you dealing with? A Trey Tucker and I don't even know what's about that. DJ Turner, I think, is a guy, something like that. Anyway, right? Like, it's just like, what are you?
Alex Bachman.
Yeah. So I mean, the
McAllister.
And the quarterback is, Gardner Minshew, and not the same Gardner Minshew that was playing for Steichen and Indy. So it's just, I don't know if you're going to get challenged this particular week in that spot, but it is something to monitor to see if Najee Johnson can continue to, improve and get better as it goes on. Besides that, I mean, we kind of just overarching theme, the Raiders offense, yikes, bad, horrible. Everybody knows how bad the Panthers are, right? And then everybody knows how bad the Dolphins have been, like, without Tua has not been able to be available. The Raiders are right there with those guys. Like, if you start to factor out like EPA per play and success rate, like, they're right there with those offenses. And now that you add in all these injuries to offensive line, wide receivers, this would be an embarrassing loss to lose to this Raiders offense, I think, is where I would settle. This would be an embarrassing loss to take for the Chiefs at this point in time.
Well, it would be against a team maybe a team that didn't complete a pass for 3 quarters, like some embarrassing, like in that kind of capacity.
Worse somehow, worse.
It somehow is. You're right. It has gotten worse. It's unfathomable, but it really has.
They beat the Ravens. Which
is also unfathomable.
It is unfathomable. It's insane. But this team absolutely has beat the Ravens. I think the problem for the Chiefs is and not like I don't think I don't know if what they have on the roster can do anything to convince the Chiefs to not do it or be pursuing something. I'm not sure. But next week's against the Buccaneers, but the Buccaneers are going to be without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin too.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get a great representation. Like, you're not going to get a good idea from that perspective before the trade deadline. So, I think, it could be someone's job to lose though, right? If, like, that's, I think the concern, right? Is it could be someone's job to lose. What do you got? You got something here.
I was going to say, and you almost have an advantage in a way as a coaching staff, as a front office, getting these couple of weeks where it's not something you really have to be overly concerned with, but you get those guys out there, you get tape on them, you get to evaluate them in live game action with real reps before you're forced to kind of make a decision, do we or don't we make a move at the deadline? So, from a fan perspective, it may be harder to get a read on, but from a front office perspective, they're going to be able to get a better feel for how Josh Williams, how Najee is fitting in, and be able to make an evaluation from there if they want to make a move at the deadline.
And I will say, I do think cornerback is one of the most easy positions for players to transition at the trade deadline. And I think
you seen what Spags does back there? I don't know.
That's a fair point. But like, Rasul Douglas stepped in and was completely fine for the Buffalo Bills last year.
Game changer.
Yeah, he was pretty good.
Troy Hill got cut, and I don't know if the Chiefs are looking for an outside corner or a slot corner, but he would probably be the Chiefs' best non-Trent McDuffie slot coverage player. Like, Shamari Connor's obviously very good in there for a different reason, and against the run and dealing with tight ends. But you were looking, if you don't want McDuffie to ever have to go back in the slot right now because you're getting fit on the outside, maybe you can look at a slot corner to come in. And Christian Roland Wallace looked good in very limited reps against the 49ers. But if you just want to feel a lot more comfortable, I think Troy Hill could still play. So there might even be some guys available that not have gotten cut recently or released or whatever. But yeah, it's definitely worth monitoring. I do think, especially as the Chiefs play a little bit of man, they play enough stuff that you could probably mix in somebody on the outside corner if they do want to make a move. Troy Hill's a name that keeps popping up every time I start to think about it, if they want to go the route of adding a slot corner.
Maddie, what's something on the defensive side of the ball that you're paying attention to for this game?
Okay, well, I mean, I mentioned it first. Like, okay, here's some injuries for the Raiders they are currently dealing with. Well, their third tight ends didn't participate in the practice, but today we got Adam Butler as a defensive tackle, limited practice. Max Crosby, he practiced, but he's on the injury list. Tommy Eichenberg, linebacker, limited. Another linebacker, limited. Jacoby Myers, limited. Colton Miller, starting offensive tackle, probably their best offensive player, didn't practice. Dylan Parham, starting guard, didn't practice. Who did I already say? Myers? Yeah, it's like they're hurt. What do they do? What do they scare you? What do you stop? And you're stopping Brock Bowers. So that's the guy you have to stop for this team. Oh, Michael Mayer, did I read something where he had stepped away for a second, or is he praying? I could be completely speaking out of turn here. I'm not going to ignore that now.
No, he is out. He's on non-football injury list.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So they don't even have like the 2 tight end sets. And maybe that Harrison Bryant did not practicing matters a little bit more now, right? So I don't know. I just don't know what this Raiders team is going to do. I would love to see the Chiefs defensive line, the non-Chris Jones version, show up like they did against the 49ers. Let's see Karlaftis stack in a couple good games back-to-back where he's winning one-on-ones, he's winning quickly and causing issues for the opposing team. Tershawn Wharton continuing to do what he's doing. We saw Felix Anudike-Uzomah have some success. Like, he did a pretty good job rushing over the center against the 49ers. He played a couple snaps, a versus the run, even going against Trent Williams. Let's see this defensive line come out and look really good again against this Raiders team that I really don't think is going to want Gardner Minshew having to drop back to pass a ton, play the run, get in third and longs, and let this defensive line kind of eat.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. It's about stopping the run. And I think, this is a defense that has a lot of pride, and they got run on last year in this on Christmas Day. It was obviously the pick sixes are what you remember and focus on, but Zamir White was running all over them all game long, and I think that's going to be a point of pride for this defense to shut that thing down. I think that's the only chance that the Raiders have to do any damage, and no one's really run on this Chiefs defense this year. So I agree with you. I don't see any way that the Raiders are generating consistent offense other than Brock Bowers, which, we've seen that the tight end position continues to be a theme with the Chiefs defense and a spot that they have trouble defending. But that's really it. There's no one else that really scares you. I mean, Trey Tucker is a good young player. He's done some nice things, but he's not somebody who scares you. Jacoby Myers, solid vet if he's out there, but not anybody that scares you. So I don't know how they're going to generate consistent offense. If I'm Spags, I'm loading up the box and stuffing the run and putting the pressure on Minshew and forcing these guys to have to make some plays on me.
Yeah, it's hard to see. I think it's a big Brock Bowers game, like a massive Brock Bowers game. Trey Tucker catches one against against Najee Johnson or something like that. Catches an explosive against Najee Johnson, and it looks something in that vein. Like just it's hard to find a path for this team to generate a ton of consistent offense. Let's move on to defensive players to watch in this game. Again, this
real
is
quick. Sorry, there's a super chat. I just want to shout out Cole here for listening and asking us a question, Kent.
Okay.
As a minor move, not everyone was high on Rashawn Fenton, but he played good back in 2021 in the system. Would he be worth bringing in as a veteran presence to mix in the rotation? Only 27 years old. I get the sentiment because he's been in the system. You think he would know it a little bit. He played inside, outside. It would make sense. He hasn't played since 2022. Like, is Rashad Fenton in game? Like, is Rashad Fenton just ready to come in and play? Can he work his way into playing shape by the time it's really time to go? Like, I don't know with some of these guys that are free agents, especially guys that haven't been on teams for a while or really played, like how ready are they going to be at any point in time? So that is the one hesitation I have. We're deep enough in the season now. A lot of guys that are free agents are probably free agents because they haven't decided to really want to play football this year. How many guys are ready to actually step in right now and come in and make plays? So I would probably have to pass on Fenton unless he was perfectly in shape and he knew he was ready to go and knew the system.
Well, and I will add to that, I think if Rashad Fenton was in a position, I think he got placed on IR last year, so who knows if he's bouncing back from injury or whatnot. But I think if that was in the cards, I think for the Chiefs, I think he'd be on the practice squad already, right? You've got he's really not, he's kind of sitting out there without even being in a building. So I think that makes it a little tricky. I think he'd probably be that's pretty telling, I guess, is what I'm saying for someone like Fenton right now. Now we will move on to defensive players to watch, presented by Tickets for Less. Promo code KCSN gets you the biggest discount available on your Chiefs tickets. Again, promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com. Hamilton, who is your defensive player to watch?
Well, I didn't know I was allowed to do this before. Maddie did it for offensive players. So I'm going with the entire defensive line this week.
Yes. Oh, I think you're going to say the entire defense.
Quick show.
I was close. I was thinking about it. But yeah, I do think this is, on that side of the ball, it's all going to be about controlling the line of scrimmage. If the Chiefs control the line of scrimmage, there's no way the Raiders are winning this game. As I mentioned, I think it is going to be a point of pride for that group after what happened last year on Christmas Day to completely shut down the run. They have been phenomenal this year against the run. And if they continue that, if they keep it going, if they keep Alexander Mattison and this run game in check, I just don't see any way that the Raiders win this game.
Matthew.
Yeah, that's a good one. We said it, like the whole goal here is to stop Brock Bowers, right? So I'm going to go with the entire Chiefs secondary is my player to watch. All 5 guys, there's 4 guys, there's 6 guys on the field, just cover Brock Bowers. Very specifically, though, Shamari Conner's getting the guy that's going to play in the slot for the vast majority for the Chiefs. Not like the Chiefs play a ton of man coverage, but they play it enough. Like they play it as much as most any other team in the NFL right now. So there will be a lot of matchups. I think Bowers is great, and I'm not saying he's a good matchup for anybody, but Conner does better against tight ends, bigger slot receivers, and he does quicker, shiftier guys. That's his bigger weakness. So he's actually pretty well suited to handle Brock Bowers in coverage. I think that's a big spot. We mentioned it. The Raiders are going to try to run the ball. So even when Conner is out there in the slot, he is a guy that's a very good run defender when he's coming downhill. I think this is kind of just a big game to stress him and see how big he can play. The Chiefs have kind of given up plays to tight ends all year. This is the first time, though, where it's like, oh, the tight end is the target. He's the guy. He's the guy you have to stop. Does that now change? Are the tight end no longer going to get lost in the flat because Brock Bowers is doing everything for this offense? Let's see what the coverage is like when they're going up against a good tight end that you know is going to be a focal point of the offense. And I think Shamari Conner, along with every other defensive back that is possibly on this roster or practice squad, and what they can do in this game.
Yeah, Hamilton, I'm going to sneak into a fraction of your player to watch there. And
I'm not going to go with the entire
You could have done the best thing ever.
Come on.
Oh my gosh.
You really dropped the ball here, Kat. Matt Swanson.
I don't want to.
Yeah, lose the name. Go back to Kent.
You've been stripped of your Matt host.
I don't want to. We've waxed poetic enough about Leo Chenal this weekend. But I want to talk about Felix Anudike-Uzomah. I'm really excited to continue to watch him. I think he's played better. I think he's been getting better as the season's gone on. It's been fascinating to see this team utilize him as a nose in some of these rushing situations and let him try to win quick along the interior. I think he's done a better job playing the run. So let's just see a continued progression in that. This is an opportunity for him to continue to build confidence against a team that the Chiefs should beat. He should be able to play a lot of snaps, not snacks. But I think he should.
No, you've seen him this year? He's definitely had some snacks. He's putting on some LBs.
He looks bigger.
Yeah.
He's starting to fill his frame a little bit more. So that's a player I'm looking forward to seeing. Like, it's just, I want to see his continued development. This is a good opportunity for him against a very bad football team. Speaking of bad football teams, let's predict this game. Hamilton, who you got in this game? Chiefs, Raiders.
I think the Chiefs win pretty handedly. As we talk, I don't know where the offense is coming from with this Raiders team. I do think, the Chiefs are going to keep it on the ground a lot. It's going to be an ugly game. But I think we see the Chiefs take it 24-6, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned it, right? I couldn't save it to the end of the show here. Like, the Chiefs, I think, are going to care about this game more than not that they want to win it more, but they're going to have a little bit more energy for this game than they do most regular season games. And I think in years past, that's been, Pat's going to have a great game. And sometimes we've seen that where he's come out and been a little bit off, and that's kind of caused a slow start. They also then explode for like a 28-point quarter in the second quarter against, the Raiders, let's say. But they've done that in the past. This year, it's not about Pat, though, coming out. It's about the defense coming down and choking out whatever the Raiders are trying to do. It's about this offensive line and Kareem Hunt, Mr. Kareem Hunt, and Samaje Perine and all these other guys like dominating up front and kind of just moving the ball down the field. I think the Chiefs are going to take this one. I think they're going to kind of snuff out the Raiders pretty early and just kind of cruise and control this game. Big offensive explosion, 31-16. The Raiders get a couple garbage time points when the Chiefs are just trying to get this one over with.
So the Raiders have beat the Chiefs essentially without an offense before, right? Like the Raiders offense was not working at all the last time that these two teams lined up on Christmas Day. And I think simply eliminating the turnovers will managing that and eliminating the turnovers and running the football is going to lead to some good things in this game. However, I do think that this is an opportunity for Patrick Mahomes to flex a little bit on a team that had the audacity to bring out a puppet and mock him during training camp. Do you have any idea what bear you're poking? I've never seen someone survive this. I've never seen a team come out and just run their mouths about Patrick Mahomes. Maddie's ready to correct me on one of those, I think. But I just this does not work well when you get Petty Pat. And I think we're going to get Petty Pat. And I think Patrick Mahomes is going to make a big play early in the game. He's going to throw a sick touchdown. And then he's going to get a little puppet out. He's going to get a little hand puppet out. And he's going to celebrate in the end zone with a little hand puppet. Give me 34-10. Kansas City Chiefs win. That's going to do it for the KC Laboratory. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
I do think we need more Petty Pat. We haven't got much this year.
I hear he's going to be